Welcome to the Flip and Castle podcast.
Hurricane Helene, just saying the name, it really hits you, the weight of it all. We've all seen the pictures, the coast just devastated. But, and this is what we're going to be kind of getting into today. It's not just the coast that takes the brunt. Helene, she really shook things up far beyond the shoreline.
And it's heartbreaking, really, to look at the numbers.
Yeah.
Over 150 confirmed gone, and so many still missing. Hundreds, unaccounted for. It really makes you think, how powerful these storms are. And going through all the research, one thing's for sure: getting back on our feet after Helene, it's going to be a long road.
I have to say, digging into all of this, what really struck me was just how far inland the damage, the devastation it went. That this wasn't just a coastal event. This was...
Yeah, this was a much broader thing. And you're right. We always focus on that coastal impact. And rightfully so. It's devastating. But Helene just kept going. We saw historic flooding hundreds of miles inland, North Carolina, South Carolina, even into Georgia. There was an NPR report that really highlighted that. And it's scary, because it shows just how vulnerable, even far from the coast, we are to these storms.
Georgia, wow. I hadn't even... It's hard to fathom, really. And and speaking of the sheer scale of it all, over 150 lives lost. That makes Helene one of the deadliest hurricanes we've seen in recent times.
It's true. And it's a trend. It's a tragic trend that we keep seeing, these increasingly intense storms. Think of warm air like a giant sponge, right? It soaks up way more moisture than cooler air ever could. So you've got all this super saturated air, and when it collides with a hurricane like Helene, the water has to go somewhere. And that's where we see these just torrential, these extreme rainfall events, hundreds of miles inland. It's a pattern, unfortunately.
It really is, like you said, that sponge analogy, it really drives the point home. And, we talk about the immediate danger, but then there's the after effects. It's the disruption to everyday life.
It points to this ripple effect. It's these cascading economic and social consequences that these storms, they unleash. Universities shut down, businesses have to close their doors, transportation's crippled, and the financial losses, they're astronomical. And then you layer on top of that the human costs, the communities, they're devastated. The strain on our infrastructure, the long-term health consequences, it's like this domino effect that it keeps going.
It's overwhelming, honestly, just trying to grasp the scale. So I guess to kind of bring it all together, Helene, it wasn't just a coastal story. It reached far inland. The death toll, it's a stark reminder of the power of these storms.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the consequences play out, in all these different ways across multiple states. It's a lot to take in.
Mm-hmm. But especially the firsthand accounts, hearing from the people who experienced this storm, it really hits differently. And as you're going through it all, I want you to think about something. How do we adapt? How do we prepare for this world where they're not just a coastal threat anymore?
And the result, catastrophic flooding. Over 150 people confirmed dead, tons still missing, no power, no clean water.
And the thing is, with the communication systems down, it's been really tough to get a handle on just how widespread the damage really is.
Right, like those early reports were just terrifying, with descriptions of water rushing through the streets.
Like rivers, they said.
Yeah, and it wasn't just a quick surge either. This was...
sustained.
Yeah, the water just sat there for days in some areas.
And that's where the real damage happens, right? When the water has time to settle in.
And that's what really gets you, when you read these personal accounts, like, absolutely. But then you read about how people responded, and it's like, well, it's almost hard to believe considering how bad it was.
Resilience of the human spirit, right?
Yeah.
It's a remarkable thing.
It really is. Like, you have neighbors, people who just lost everything themselves, wading through the water to check on each other.
Sharing whatever food and water they had left, offering a place to stay.
And that's what seems to be giving a lot of people hope, that sense that, hey, we're all in this together, we're going to get through this. As a community, it's been an emotional one, but I think there's a lot of hope here too, a lot to learn from the resilience of the human spirit. Mm-hmm. And for all of you listening, we hope this conversation inspires you to reflect on the power of community, not just in times of crisis, but in every aspect of your lives.